Hey, hi, hello, and welcome to today's video. Today we are going to be doing some rendering studies of Arcane, the hit show that has re-released again. Arcane is a legendary series. It's one of my favorite. It came out in like 2020, and ever since I first watched it, I was obsessed with the art style in Arcane. Like the chunky rendering style. That inspired me for literally years. That was the moment I decided I no longer wanted to do the anime cell shading kind of art style that I have been sticking to for a while, until I saw Arcane and I was like, can I get chunky soft shading? Can we bring it back? And I did, and that's kind of where my art style has been for a while. But watching Arcane season 2, I'm only on arc 1, so please nobody spoil anything for me, please. Watching Arcane season 2 has re-inspired me, and I just love their rendering style. So today I'm going to be doing 2 scene studies and trying to mimic their rendering style. And I want to say specifically rendering style because I personally like having liner in my drawings. Like, that's just part of my style. So I'm going to be keeping the lines in my style, which is why I say I'm going to be studying their rendering style. So first of all, these are the 2 scenes that I picked out that I decided I want to draw. So these 2 scenes are the ones we're going to be drawing today. And yeah, I'm going to have the screen recording in the background, and I'm just going to tell you what I learned from studying the rendering styles of the masters. First things first. One of the main things you have to know about Arcane, specifically these 2 scenes that I chose that it didn't even click on my mind when I first chose them, the mood and the atmosphere that Arcane articulates with their characters, and the fact that they use such saturated color palettes. So Arcane has these characters with such vibrant colors. Like Vi has like this bright red, Jinx has bright blue, even Caitlyn, she has like a darker but still saturated dark blue. And the fact that they're able to articulate all these super saturated colors and still get that moody atmosphere, like you can still recognize that it's a very deep saturated red or blue or whatever, but it's not lost in the atmosphere and the mood and the lighting. So that's something I personally struggle with my art. Like I feel like I always do the same daylight, normal tone lighting. So I never really got to grasp like the mood and the atmosphere that comes with messing around the color wheel some more and choosing colors that are a little bit outside of their normal color palette, but compared to the colors next to them, it looks perfect. They accomplish this with 2 things. First, color theory, obviously, and second, actually drawing a background. Obviously, drawing a character in a void and just choosing the lighting source, whatever you want it to be, because they're in a void anyway, so it doesn't matter, kind of only can take you so far. At some point you have to draw a background, and that background and the objects in that background and where the lighting is in the background affect how the lighting shines through onto the character. So for example, in the scene with Victor, he's in a very dark greenish background. His skin color is a like light greenish color, like light cyan color, because of the background that he's in. If he didn't have that background, he wouldn't really be able to have that skin color, obviously. Let me just show you the shade that I used as the highlight color of the skin for both of these drawings, just so you can see what I mean. See how neither of these colors on their own look remotely close to a skin shade that's out there. Like there's no one with this desaturated color of like cyan. But if you put this color in this shade of background, this becomes, number 1, the lightest color that's in the background, and number 2, the warmest color in the scene that makes it pass for a skin tone. If you put it against super dark blue, a light blue that's slightly towards the green side is kind of gonna look a little warmer than a dark blue. You understand what I'm saying? That's how color theory works. So in the context of this scene that they're in, these colors work perfect. And obviously you can't do that without a background. So this is your sign and my sign to start drawing backgrounds. Even if it's just like a half body or a portrait, just try and like learn how to draw. I'll here in the future I will do a video on how to get better at drawing backgrounds, and not like landscapes, or like I mean like in the background of a normal drawing, like a portrait or something like that. Or do what I do and just look at random animated scenes and try to copy that same background and lighting, but put your OCs in the scene. Boom. I got you. I literally got you. Think about how out of place and weird it would look to have a quote-unquote normal skin tone, like Victor's normal skin tone in this specific scene. It would look way too bright, way too saturated. Obviously, this is something you have to get a hang of and either learn how to see and understand color theory and how it would affect the skin tone and stuff like that, which is what I'm trying to do. Or you can learn how to manipulate different layer modes on whatever drawing program you're using. Like I know some people use like overlay, multiply, you know, you can mess with things like that. You know how to do it and it will probably make your life easier. But for a while, me personally, I just want to try just learning how to see color theory and understand it before I try to apply it with layer modes. So yeah, that's color theory. It definitely will take a while to get used to, but if you want to grow as an artist, it's definitely something you would want to invest your time in and put on that list of things that you gotta learn. The list goes on. The work is never done as an artist. I'm sorry. The second observation I made when studying arcane scenes was dynamic lighting gives you dramatic scenes, which is very self-explanatory. You're not wrong. Sometimes you need to like keep repeating these things until they actually become habits in your mind when you're drawing. I want you to look at these two drawings that I chose to redraw in my style using their rendering style, and I want you to see how the lighting that they chose in both of these scenes give off a specific vibe. Both of the lightings will tell you a deeper idea or meaning that the director or the animator is trying to convey by showing you instead of telling you. For example, when you look at Victor in the scene, there's a reason why people start calling him the Jesus of Arcane. He's in his Jesus arc. And obviously it's because of his actions and the things he's done in the show, like healing the poor and diseased, shimmer infected or obsessed people, addicted people. And also like him wearing that big cloak obviously doesn't help the Jesus allegations, but okay, specifically when it comes to lighting, think about the lighting in this scene and how it really pushes this idea, this Jesus Victor idea, right? Stay with me here. The backlight with Victor looking directly into the camera with these soft, like pitying eyes, the lighting almost creates this halo effect over his body. It makes him look ethereal, like the light is coming from in him. He is a representation of the light or goodness, you know? This is how lighting can affect how a scene pushes those ideas, like visually pushes those ideas towards the viewer. Very important. Think about how weird this scene of Victor would look if it had the lighting and the angle as the scene that Caitlin's in. Caitlin, her scene has this super intense overhead lighting that darkens her eyes so much, and like obviously the bottom of her face and like her chin and whatever, but mostly focusing on her eyes. Like her eyes are so deep in shadow, and that intensifies her resentful, like irritated facial expressions so much. And also the fact that she's obviously looking down at you. Like this character is exhibiting such an intense emotion with these deep dark shadows just staring down at you. Both of these scenes use very dynamic lighting, but they both serve different purposes. And if you swap them, to be honest, neither of the scenes would look as good or as intense at all. So the lesson here with Arcane is when you're drawing your own scenes, think about the composition, think about the lighting and how different lighting affects how you want the scene to be portrayed. And number 4, last but not least, the details. Also in the realm of lighting and rendering are those little tiny details that really push the scene further than it would without them. The details, they really do matter. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, this is kind of just me getting carried away with the rendering instead of just studying Arcane's art style. But it's with these two scenes and experimenting with the rendering that really pushed me to make these creative decisions to push it even further. So I thought I'd include it anyways. These are things I'm going to continue doing in my future pieces, so I might as well include them for you guys. Come on. First things first, adding bright eye highlights kind of gives the effect of like watery eyes. There's a difference from getting eye highlights like the white dots and really exaggerating it. And I did that, and you can see it with Victor's drawing. I'll show you one with and without it, like with normal just eye highlights, and one with the super exaggerated one, and see the difference it makes. It makes his eyes look watery, but it just makes you focus on his eyes so much more. And it's little things like that that push a scene. Number 2, adding noise and texture to random things. I love doing this. So for the concrete in Caitlin's drawing in the wall, I used a layer of black noise, and I changed the layer settings to overlay, messed with the opacity a little bit until I kind of liked where it was looking, and boom, big difference. The concrete on the wall no longer looked like flat plastic, like just flat color, like it had some sort of texture to it that I didn't have to draw myself. And also when it comes to texturing that concrete wall, smudging random variations of like colors that are close to the original color can really add more variety to your drawing. So some parts of the walls I used a more bluish tint, some I used a more greenish tint. You can even see some like red in there that kind of looks like rust dripping from the walls. Little things like that like when I was really looking at Arcane's background, I never really noticed, but when you study it, you're like, yeah. So when you do your own drawings, it's important to think of little details like that, like what can I do to add variety to the texture in this scene. Last but not least, with these tiny details, floating air particles. Hear me out, okay? If you just use a random spray brush at a high brush size and particle size or whatever, mess around a little bit, blur those dots, lower the opacity until it looks like decent, and you're set. You're just adding like texture to the air. I don't know how to explain it, especially in like these scenes. They're both underground. One of them is in a sewer and one of them is in like deepest, darkest like fissures of the undercity. So little things like that you could think about, and it makes a difference. Anyways, small little video of my observations from these 2 drawings that I did of scenes from Arcane. Really fun, really quick. It's always good to not just challenge yourself, but to do studies of real scenes, especially other artists' scenes. Like it's easy to do studies of real people, study other people's art, especially ones that you admire, or there's certain things that you can definitely tell, like something about this I really love and I wish I could articulate it in my own work. Those are the things you want to focus on. So if there's any shows that you watch and you just absolutely love the design, do a study on it. Take some screenshots of some scenes that are in it while you're watching and just do some studies on it for fun. That's what I did with Arcane, and I love the results. I'm definitely going to try and do some deeper rendering in my future pieces, and just really try to push that dynamic lighting and my color theory a little bit more and draw some backgrounds. Maybe one of these days I might. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed me ranting about how much I love Arcane's art style and trying to imitate it the best I can. If you guys like this video, If you have anything to say, drop it in the comments below. And of course, on my social media is Mari Draws. So feel free to follow me there, and I will see you guys next Saturday for another upload. Hopefully.